Hello my buddies! Welcome to a video with Kim Tech. My name is Kim. Today I'll be sharing with you how to clean Ninja Swirl by CREAMi soft serve and ice cream machine. If you haven't seen my review video of this product, please check it out after this one. Anyway, timestamps are in the description box below, so you can skip to the sections you want. And if I didn't mention any cleaning tip that works for you, please share down below to help out others. Greatly appreciated. Okay, let's get started. Before we go into the actual cleaning process, let me share with you some precautionary tips to minimize the mess so cleaning would also be minimized. Let's start with some very basic ones that I'm sure most of you already know or have found out after a couple uses with the Ninja Swirl. However, if you haven't, it's okay, I got you. For example, always keep the swirl pint base closed when you have your sweet treat inside and are not using the soft serve dispenser because we wouldn't want the content to spill everywhere. Next, wash the drip tray after every use instead of pushing it back, because if one drop of that sweet goodness gets on the tray and you happen to not see it and push it back in, then you may have uninvited guests on the counter if you have a critter problem. Also, I have a couple recommendations around the mixture creation process. For instance, I don't recommend mixing thick mixture or at least mixture with xanthan gum or any fine powder inside the swirl pint. It's because there are pockets at the bottom of the pint that the powder gets stuck pretty well to when not fully dissolved, which makes cleaning not so fun. I was trying to save washing another container and ended up wasting so much more time and water with the cleanup. So if you're making a thick mixture or creating a mixture with fine powder, I'd highly recommend mixing all of the ingredients and pouring the mixture into the swirl pint after. Another recommendation is keeping the mixture below the max fill line by at least half an inch, as during the processing stage, the paddle pushes the mixture upward, which can cause more overflow than wanted. And you'd end up with the mixture not only being on the spindle, but around the first encasing area as well. At least that was the case for me when I filled my mixture right to the max fill line. My final precautionary tip is that if you want to store the remaining mixture at the end of each dispense session, then make sure to close the pint base, twist off the nozzle, and clean the nozzle before putting it back on the pint to store in the freezer. And you don't have to put the nozzle back on if you don't want to. However, the nozzle has to be removed and cleaned before storing the leftover pint in the freezer. And the reason for cleaning the nozzle is because any residue stuck in the nozzle would freeze when you put the pint back in the freezer, which would then create a barrier and jam the dispensing process. I can tell you from first-hand experience, that was what happened to me, which was great because it allows me to learn and share with you to help prevent you from making the same mistake that I made, which made a big mess, and I had a great time cleaning up afterward. Okay, now for the actual cleaning process. First, let me identify what can be disassembled. This is shown in the quick start guide and the recipe book. So the paddle can be detached from the outer bowl lid, and the lid gasket can be removed. For the swirl pints, we know that their lids can be removed and the nozzles and their gasket can be disassembled. Next, we have the dispense lid and swirl press, which come pre-installed out of the box, so we can release the swirl press from the dispense lid by pulling back on the latch of the dispense lid. We can further remove the lid gasket from the dispense lid for cleaning. The last detachable piece is the drip tray, which can be removed by pulling it all the way out from the unit. I'm not going to go over how to clean the simple detachable parts, such as the gasket, nozzles, lids, and etc. to not waste your time. I'm here mainly to help you clean the parts that I find to be more challenging or it can be missed. Let's break up the cleaning tips in two categories: the more difficult detachable parts and the motor base. We'll focus first on the more difficult detachable parts. For the dispense lid, the best way that I found to clean without full visibility is to put it under a running faucet where the holes are. meanwhile pulling back on the latch and releasing it. And you keep doing this until the water runs clear. Unfortunately, there is no other way to get visibility or a confirmation visibly that is clean, which I personally find to be annoying, cumbersome, and wasteful. Cumbersome for how long cleaning this can take and how wasteful I'm being with my water. And I'm not even sure if it's fully clean or will it start accumulating mold after some time. Next, let's talk about cleaning the swirl pint. If the swirl pint houses a light mixture such as fruit sorbet or fruit whip, then cleaning is normally easier. However, for when you have a thicker mixture or if you have gunk stuck in the pockets, then you can use a wooden toothpick to pry it out, which has worked well for me. This was how I got my residue out from the matcha and xanthan gum mixture, is to clean it normally with dish soap first to get out what I can. Then while the gunk is still wet, I use the wooden toothpick to remove the remainder that I couldn't get to with the sponge. The wooden toothpick won't scratch the container, so you don't have to worry. As for the base of the swirl pint, I used the silicone straw cleaner to clean what I could. And I could have bent the straw cleaner to give it a curvature to clean the curve better, but I forgot that I could bend the straw cleaner at that time. So if you have a curved brush, that may work as well if you can get the brush in and wrapped around that curvature. I don't know, but I think cleaning it would still be a bit inconvenient and may not be as easy, especially with how I'm picturing this in my head. Maybe it's just me. Now on to cleaning the motor base, which is the machine. It's noteworthy that the platform can be cleaned, however, it may not need to be cleaned often unless the mixture overflows during the spinning process. To clean, we only need to lock the outer bowl in place to raise the platform up, and don't forget to turn it upside down and wipe the bottom of the base to avoid any sticky mess at the bottom. Another piece of the motor base that can be cleaned is the paddle spindle. Since the paddle spindle goes all the way down to the bottom of the pint, the shaft section of the spindle that is being lowered and the tip would get dirty. Unfortunately, I couldn't figure out how to remove the cover to clean the shaft of the spindle, so the max that I was able to clean was the tip of the spindle. I tried cleaning it by putting soap water inside the swirl pint and letting it spin, hoping that the tip of the spindle would be clean afterward, but that wasn't the case. I even tried choosing a longer program, such as Fruit Whip under soft serve, but the tip of the spindle was still dirty. So what has worked for me is wiping the spindle and its surrounding area as much as I can, and while the spindle is still wet, I go back in with a wooden toothpick with a paper towel covering the tip and go between the ridges until it looks clean. This is another tedious cleanup, which has to be done because I'm sure we don't want yesterday's leftovers being mixed with today's meal, especially if it's been left outside for who knows how many hours. Anyway, that's it on my tips for cleaning the Ninja Swirl by CREAMi soft serve and ice cream machine. Please share with me down below if you use any of these tips, or if you're like me and think that cleaning this was a waste of time, or if you disagree completely. I'd love to hear from you as well. Hope you all find this video helpful. If you do, please click the thumbs up and subscribe. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it down below. Thank you again for watching this video, and have yourself a nice day or night wherever you are, my buddies. Until next time, bye!